everyone. We are, can I say where we are?
Yeah.
Okay, we're on at Farmhouse on Main and Coffee Bar, and we are here with Deb's Accidental Art, learning Zentangle art. Fun.
Let's go. Hey everyone, here we are with Deb Bowyer of Deb's Accidental Art. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, excited to have you guys in my little town.
Yeah, we're so excited to be here, and we're so excited to learn some art later on. But we'll start with you just telling us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Deb Bowyer, local Fort St. John artist. Grew up here, went to school here, moved away for a couple of years, came back. Raised my daughter here, met my husband here, and turned into an artist. Accidentally, literally. I always did art. All through school, I took art as an elective and enjoyed it. Never really found my niche. Didn't really think I was good at anything. Kind of let it go, you know, when you're working and you're busy and you don't always have time for the fun stuff, right? And so kind of let it go. And then around 2007, I started doing a little bit more. And so I was kind of exploring with oils and acrylics and watercolor and taking some just local classes and having fun. And then I lost my job. So in 2014, I got laid off. I'd been working 25 years. Long time. Got laid off. Kind of went in a funk. I was a little bit depressed and didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. I was only 50. I'm like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And kind of stumbled upon this art method called Zentangle. And before I started my business, I just was doing it kind of on my own and just doing my thing and drawing. And actually what's on my business card, that little tree, is how my whole business started. So I drew this tree and someone said, "Hey Deb, I'd buy a card if you made it into a card." And I went, "Oh, really? Like you would give me money for that?"
You paid me for my art?
Pay me for that? And so it was done in the Zentangle style. I still didn't really know anything about Zentangle, but I was in that style. And so I made some cards and a few other things, notebooks, and I went to the local farmers market, set up a table with a friend, and started selling that and some of my other pieces of art. Some of the encaustic that I learned from, as you know, Irene Goot, local as well, and sold some cards and notebooks and bookmarks and just little things. And then I started exploring Zentangle as an art method itself a little bit more and quickly got hooked. It's kind of addictive in a good way. And I signed up for a newsletter from the founders of Zentangle, Rick Roberts and Maria Thomas, and signed up for the newsletter and then signed up to get certified. So they do a teaching program where they teach people how to teach others and spread the word and share those things. And so I went in April 2016. And I went to just outside of Providence, Rhode Island, a hotel there, and spent several days with the founders and their family and friends that make up this little home base, well, not home base, but little business called Zentangle. And came back and started sharing with everyone I could meet. So, you know, if we were in a coffee shop and you sat with me, I would have brought my stuff and I would have taught you. And if I was volunteering at my daughter's field trip, I would have sat with you and taught you, and that's how I started. And then I started Deb's Accidental Art as a business and got a license and Facebook page and Instagram and all that stuff, and have been teaching nonstop. And through COVID went online because I couldn't teach in person anymore, and went online, and now I teach people all over the world. It's pretty cool. So sharing the Zen of Zentangle, which for me is what helped get me out of that funk, the meditative aspect, the self-help kind of awareness, all those wonderful things that you'll soon discover. And I have no intention of stopping. We'll just see where it takes me and where we go.
Wow, that's incredible.
That was a lot.
Yeah, that was, but in like the best way. I don't want you to think like that was too much. That was amazing. That's
awesome.
So much about you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
So going back kind of, because there was a lot there, so
there
just
was
to unpack it a bit. You said that you had left Fort St. John for a bit and then came back. What was it that brought you back?
Well, a lot of things, but work mostly, really. I went to go to school. I graduated high school, and everyone has to leave, so I did that, and quickly realized I couldn't really afford to live in Victoria.
Victoria's beautiful, but
It is
expensive.
beautiful, and my mom and my sister were there, and so I wanted to stay, but just really couldn't do it. And actually, we were in a recession here at that time in Fort St. John, and so when I came back, the jobs weren't plentiful, but more so than Victoria. And so I was able to get a job and started working, and met my husband a couple of years later, and yeah, it's home. It is for. I was 6 months old when I moved here, so all but 3 years of my life have been here. So.
And then you had mentioned that you'd always been interested in art. What do you think it is about art that you're so passionate about?
Well, I think what I'm so passionate about now with Zentangle is literally anyone can do it. And so it makes an artist out of people that don't think they are, because I really didn't have the confidence to believe that I was an artist until I found Zentangle. And yeah, I've done lots of different things over the years, but there was never one thing that I loved, and went, oh, that's cool. But I literally almost cried when I saw the first card and the first metal print I had made, actually at another local business that you were at recently. They do some of my printing for me, and a metal plaque and then a glossy plaque. And so when I picked those up and I unwrapped it, I went, oh, I made that. It was so cool. It gave me goosebumps. And yeah, that's what makes me passionate, is Zentangle and knowing how easy it is, even though it looks difficult, and you'll quickly realize that.
It looks very difficult.
It's not. Literally anyone can do it. That's one of our kind of sayings. Anyone can do it. If you can hold a pen and if you can print your name, you can do the Zentangle method.
Okay.
That's
so
it. That's all.
Maybe I'll be all
you
right.
can. You're going to be so impressed with yourself.
Probably, because I'll have the amazing teacher. That's why.
Yeah.
What was the process like for you going from kind of doing art here and there to stopping a bit to then art becoming your life and your business and teaching other people how to do it?
Oh my goodness, it's so overwhelming because, as you know, there's so much more than just doing the art, right? Any business is more than just that one little aspect, right? If I didn't have a bit of a tech background, if I didn't have some administrative skills, that's what I did most of my life, I think I'd be lost. Some bookkeeping skills, right? There's so many things behind the scenes that you have to do. It's not just sitting down making the art and making something pretty and selling it, right? It's all the other stuff that you have to do, and it can be tedious and it can be overwhelming, and insurance and business license and taxes and all that not so fun stuff, right? The doing of the art is really kind of a small part, and to me, teaching is the best part. Sharing it and teaching, and yeah, I do it a lot for myself too, but I really enjoy the teaching aspect and seeing how others bloom and blossom from it. That's probably my favorite part.
Your favorite part being like watching others realize that they can do something?
The potential, yeah. I've been working with a young girl. She's been coming to my home since September, once a week, and seeing her growth as a person and as an artist too, and just her I think anxiousness has become less, and she's more confident, and that's really rewarding. So that's kind of a success story that I've had for working with her over the school year. She's taking classes with me to fulfill her art requirement for homeschooling. So,
oh wow! Crazy
really
how those transferable skills happen. You build confidence in art, and then she's able to carry that in other aspects of her life as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty cool.
So Zentangle being your top medium of art, do you enjoy others?
I do, and what's kind of cool about Zentangle is it allows you to incorporate other things into it. So, we start off with black on white, just a simple piece of art, and then it grows. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do black on white, and that's where everybody starts. But then you start adding stuff to it, and so that has watercolor in it, and that was pastel chalks, and another thing might have been Prismacolor pencils, and another might be ink-based products, and so there's all kinds of other things you kind of add into it. Acrylic, paint pens, right? All kinds of things that you kind of add 2 years Zentangle practice when you become addicted.
In a good way.
In a good way. It's a
way.
good addiction. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it just, the possibilities are endless.
What is Zentangle for folks who don't maybe know?
So Zentangle is actually a trademarked program created by those people I mentioned earlier, and they're just outside of Massachusetts. And it is the art of deconstructed patterns. And so we use patterns that they've broken, or people have broken down into very simple steps using fundamental strokes. And that's why I say if you can print your name, you can do Zentangle, because those fundamental strokes are letters. So the letter I, so a straightish line. We say straightish because no one draws a perfect line. A dot, so that's letter I. A C-shaped curve, or a C curve. An S curve, or a wiggly, jiggly line. And an orb, or an O. And again, not perfect circles. Everything's hand-drawn. We don't use rulers. We don't use erasers, and we just do the best we can in the moment, but everything's kind of laid out for you. And when we go through the class, you'll see we use different steps for the process, and so that allows, again, anyone to do it. So you just kind of follow the steps, and everyone ends up with something different, unique, based on how they interpret the pattern, and it's very relaxing. So it's very meditative and very relaxing.
I know you'd mentioned the tree that you had initially created that someone had wanted as a card.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite piece, or do you have a favorite piece of art that you've created?
It was at the time. It was at the time. And literally every time I draw a new one, it's my favorite for that time. So yeah, it just depends on the time and the moment and what I've done. And you kind of, I don't know, every time you draw, and we call them tiles, every time you draw a tile, you just get better at it. And so then you see a different way to shade something, or a different way to accent something, or a different way to even draw the line. And that becomes your favorite in that moment, right? So, so yes, that was my favorite for a long time. But I've seen improvement in my art since then too. So, yeah, no, I don't have a right this minute favorite.
It'll be the one that you create today.
That's
with
maybe, yeah, exactly.
What was something that maybe surprised you throughout your experience learning Zentangle?
I don't know if it was surprise, but I was maybe a little shocked at how my attitude to life changed. You start seeing positivity in things. You become more grateful and appreciative. You see patterns everywhere, right? Once you start drawing patterns, you see patterns everywhere. And so I take pictures of, maybe rock work, or I'll take a picture of a shirt or a mug that I see, or a tile floor that I see. And so patterns just all of a sudden pop out of the woodwork, literally. And just, again, that mental health, I think. And yeah, just really helped me kind of get out. And still that's, if I'm feeling, winter blue kind of things, or even, a rainy day or whatever, if I sit down and we call it tangling. So if I sit down and tangle for 5, 10, 15 minutes, it's amazing how quickly your mood can change and your outlook on life can change. And yeah, it's a positive. It's really a good addiction. It's a wonderful thing.
That's so. Do you know where Zentangle came from? Because it's such
a
fun word, and
I
calling
know.
it like you're tangling. That's so.
Well, Rick and Maria really put a lot of thought into making Zentangle a method, and so, like I said, they trademarked it. It's a trademark name, and they kind of came up with those two words, Zen is one and Tangle is another. And how they kind of talk about it is Rick's kind of a Zen guy. And if you ever met him, he's like a yogi master. Like you feel just that calm. Yeah, you do. He's just got that kind of aura around him. And which is funny because we use aura as a term. And he's like a maker of flutes. He plays music, but he's also a science and math kind of nerd. But he's just a really cool Zen guy. And then his wife, Maria, they're partners, and she's like the Energizer Bunny, like they're opposites. And and she came up with the word tangle. And she likes to say that it's kind of like dancing a dance or coloring a color. It can be a verb or a noun. So we tangle, draw the tangle patterns. And so I'm not sure how that actual word came to be, but they combined them two and came up with
two elements. you get this.
I know, and it's pretty amazing, and they're just an amazing couple, and the whole business they built around it is really cool. So. They're the ones that made it and share it with everybody around the world. There's about 8,000 of us now that are considered certified Zentangle teachers. When I went in 2016, you had to actually go in person, and so you had to travel to them. And there were about 108 in my class. But now they're teaching online too, and they're teaching it outside of just their area around Massachusetts. They've got people in Europe that are teaching in kind of collaboration with them, and then in Asia as well in collaboration with them. So, and the online. So now they have 8,000, 2,500 altogether, I think we were, when I finished in 2016, and now it's 8,000.
Quite the reach that they have.
And pretty much every country in the world, it's pretty amazing, yeah.
I mean, it must be a wonderful art form then if
it is.
That amount of people.
If you don't love it, I'll give you your money back.
We'll definitely love it, I'm sure.
Yeah, you will.
And I always say I'm not artistic with drawing and things.
You don't have to be. Yeah.
I'm really hoping. I have high faith. That's not what I'm trying to say. I have high hopes. Thank you, Rochelle. I have high hopes for this.
And I'm confident you will love it. There's very few people I've taught that haven't loved it. Some don't continue with it, but I have a very large following of people that take every single class I offer and are just practicing it and doing it. My daughter is using it. She just graduated university, and she didn't really want me to teach her. You know, I'm her mom, and so that doesn't always bode well. But she would take my pattern cards, and she would sit down with her tools, and she would tangle on her own. And now she's using it as a way to distress and reduce anxiety and go to sleep and all the things that we get the benefits from Zentangle from, and she's using it. So I'm like, someday maybe she'll become a CZT as well.
Yeah,
that's my hope.
Cute.
I know, mother-daughter team.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's such a healthy addiction, like being able to calm down before sleep and like reduce anxiety and things like that. And it's just continually coming up with the more and more we talk about it. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a huge benefit. All those things have benefited me personally, and pain relief even.
Oh,
like,
really?
It really. Like, I sometimes get vertigo too, and I wasn't sure I could teach one day. I had a really bad bout of vertigo, and I just sat down in front of the computer on Zoom with my students, and in the 2 hours that we taught, I didn't feel any of the effects of it. And, you know, if I've got a headache or just not feeling 100%, just sitting and doing some tangling for a while, you forget about it. That's amazing. Yeah, it really is. They're doing studies on it, and the effects, well, art in general, right, has so many positive effects, but Zentangle in particular, they've been doing some research, some different places, so we'll see what that brings out.
Why do you think art is important in the world today?
Oh my goodness, we all need joy, right? We all need happiness, and the world's such a negative place right now, I feel, and so if we can do anything in our own lives to bring that joy, and it can be whatever, right? It literally can be painting on a rock or a stick in the sand or whatever. It doesn't, and you don't have to be good at it, right? you just do it for the joy of it, and sometimes you're not good at it at first, right? But just like anything, the more you practice, the better you get, and Zentangle's like that, right? And we say it's about the process, not the outcome in Zentangle anyway, so you're going to make something really cool and pretty, right? And that will be important too, but it just kind of happens, and you're not striving to make something perfect, and yeah, I think that's what art should be about. It should just be doing it and not worrying about how it ends up, right? And as long as it brings you joy and others maybe joy, then that's a good thing.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge over the years for you? Zentangle or art or that transition period? Probably
reaching people, right? Before COVID, literally. I think I'd kind of run out of people in town, right? Like you can only teach so many people in person before you run out of people that are interested, and sometimes the reach is hard, and I'm sure you know that too. It's hard to get people to look at what you're doing and to continue and to follow, and it's a work in progress all the time. Like I'm constantly having to keep up on social media, which really isn't my favorite thing to do, but it's about the only way really. When you don't have a budget for advertising, then that's what you do. And so I think probably that aspect, the keeping content real and live and current and valid and out there so that people can find you and hopefully reach out and take a class. And that's how I keep going.
How do you stay motivated in that?
I don't know. I enjoy it so much. I don't really need to be motivated. I definitely have burnout times, and usually this time of year is when I start to kind of wind down. I like to take the summers off and not worry so much about social media and posting and keeping active that way. And then I get bored and then want to start up again when the weather gets cooler. And but I want to enjoy our summers. They're short up here, and so I like to get outside. And that doesn't mean I quit tangling, but it just maybe means I'm not out there as much. But yeah, I think that keeps me motivated. And then taking classes from other people too. So yes, I teach, but I also take classes from other certified Zentangle teachers, and they motivate me to do other things too. So it's a give and take that way.
Have you ever experienced like creative block? I want to say writer's block, but like
I know what you mean.
block?
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's funny because we actually use Zentangle to help the blocks. It's actually a tool that many people use to prevent those kind of blocks. And artist block, writer's block, I understand that. And you'll see when we start to step it out. So if I'm feeling that kind of way, I go back to basics. And the basics are what I'm going to show you today, are the basic things. And so I do lots of really cool things with color and lots of interesting stuff. And that sometimes I get blocked with. But when I get to that point, then I come back to the basics. We'll talk about those. And that seems to open up everything and just get you going again. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, good question, because that really is, Zentangle is used for lots of different artists in different ways that have blocks, yeah.
Yeah, wow. I'm going to start using
You're
it when
gonna
I'm
love it.
creatively blocked. That's what I was trying to say. Where do you hope to see your art or Deb's accidental art in, let's say, 5 years?
5 years. So I'll be retired age then, maybe. So I still hope to be teaching. I don't have any grandiose plans. I don't expect to see my art, out in the world in big manners. My art's little anyways, but I hope that I'm still teaching, and I hope that I'm still reaching people. I have an eye disease, so yeah, I'm kind of limited to what my vision's going to do as I get older. So I'm hopeful that I will keep making art, if not teaching it at least. In whatever manner that is. I'm sure it'll be Zentangle, because I just can't see not doing that. It's me now. That's who I am. So, yeah, just kind of keep on keeping on.
And what would you say makes Fort St. John unique?
Oh my goodness, we have a huge creative base here. And there's so many amazing artists and local businesses and vendors, and I don't know. It's a young population. I'm old, and
you don't look very old. You're older than me, obviously.
Obviously,
I look like I'm 12. So.
Yeah. So I don't know what your age is, but the average age in Fort St. John, I think now, it used to be 28. I think it's 33. Oh. So we have a very young male. You're really young. You're my daughter. You could be my daughter then. You're my daughter's a year older than my daughter.
Teaching team. I'm just kidding.
Brooke will be jealous.
Sorry, Brooke. I'm not going to steal your mom. Don't worry.
She knows she's number one. That's all good.
Sorry, you were saying young male.
Young male. Yes. Oil field dominated place. But there's still lots of really creative and really artistic people in town. And so whether that's music or visual arts or performing arts, lots of dance, lots of amazing artists in this town. Very unique. The other really unique thing, I think, is the real caring attitude here. If someone needs help in Fort St. John, they get help in Fort St. John. So I'm sure you've heard that. Actually, one of the people that you were with the other day, Audelicious, does a huge amount of fundraising and whatnot around town, as many people do. Canadian Grind, too, amazing fundraising. Pretty much every small business in this town does something to raise money, and I try and do my part as well, but there's a lot of that in this town. It's huge, huge, huge.
Yeah, that's been brought up at a few of the different places that we've been able to go to. And I think that's so touching because it really shows the care that the community has for each other and supporting each other.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's because of the younger, I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's really been that way for a long time. So any kind of event, any kind of need always seems to get filled in this community. It's really cool.
And then last question, it doesn't have to be specific to Zentangle or Fort St. John, but what would you say is the best piece of advice you've received throughout your life?
I don't know. I haven't been given a lot of advice. I grew up in an era where there wasn't really a lot of that. But I think probably the one that maybe feels the most to me is just be you, right? Do you, be you, be who you want to be, love who you want to love. That's my thing. Yeah, just do you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great.
So welcome. We're going to do a little what we call introduction to the Zentangle method. So we're going to just spend a little time just relaxing and breathing and drawing some art. Okay? Again, it's about the process, not the outcome. So hopefully the intent is you'll feel relaxed and calm and just really soothed by the end of the time. But you'll take home a little piece of art that tomorrow you'll look at with new eyes and you'll be, wow, I can't believe I did that. So sometimes we're a little hard on ourselves when we first start. But again, part of the Zentangle method is to be kind to yourself, to appreciate what you can do in the moment, and just embrace what you can do. And so if your lines are a little shaky, and mine often are, whether it's from having too much coffee or not enough sleep or just even a little stress to start with, you'll find that they'll kind of smooth out, and the more you do it, the better they'll get, and we create muscle memory as we're doing it. So let's open up our little goodies. So I apologize not for having a bookmark for each of you because I just did a big class not long ago, and so all my supplies were gone, and but they'll just remind us of some of the steps that we do. And so the Zentangle method is a very portable art method. As you can see, there's not a whole lot in the kit. Okay, you don't need a lot to do it. So it's really affordable too, which makes it really nice for people. They don't have to invest in hundreds of dollars of equipment to be able to start. You just need what's in front of you. I brought my little sharpener just in case. So these are all things that I get right from Zentangle, and so they get shipped to me right from them. They resell to the people that are certified like I am. We're allowed to purchase from them and then create our kits. And so I've created a mini kit for you today. A little different than what I would do for a class, but similar. So first of all is the paper tiles, and they are a branded Zentangle item that I buy from them, and they are made from beautiful paper, cotton paper that has been pressed specifically for this art method. It's kind of a bit like a watercolor paper. If you feel it, pick it up and feel it. Part of the Zentangle method is appreciating what you have for supplies as well as what we're doing. So pick it up and feel it. Feel that nice deckled edge. And there's a story behind that deckled edge. When they were coming up with the Zentangle method, Rick had accidentally put his piece of paper in his pocket of his jeans, and it went through the wash. And so when his piece of art came out, it had this kind of ruffled, deckled edge to it, and they liked it, so they embraced it, and that's what they're using. And so it's got a nice feel to it, and it's meant to work with the pens, and the pens will soak into the paper, dry instantly, and they're just, quite amazing. So a couple of those. I think I got to give you 3 of those. Yes. Okay. We're gonna 4. Okay. Oh, you got a bonus. We're just going to work probably on 1 today. If we have more time, we'll start another one. But the intent is to finish 1. Okay. So just keep 1 out, and you can tuck the other ones away if you like.
I was also going to ask though. You had mentioned that this was cotton paper. Do you know why it's cotton?
Because it works so well with the. It's Italian, and I didn't want to say the name. It's Fabriano paper. It's an Italian, very popular paper. They make really nice artistic paper. So they actually went through, I think it was 10,000 paper samples before they chose this one, and it worked the best with the pen and the paper and the pencil. So they did a lot of research on different things to find things that worked. So and it's meant to archival. It's meant to last like 100 years once it's done.
That's so cool.
The combination of the pen and the paper, and very cool. Okay. So we will, when we call these tiles, either paper and their tiles, part of the reason we call them tiles is because afterwards in a class we combine all the tiles together to create what we call a mosaic. And so it's really fun to see them all together and see how they kind of mingle, and how if you flip them around they look a little different, and kind of hard to do with just 3 of us, but imagine a group of 24 or 30 or 108, right? If you get them all together, how powerful it is. And I love to do that in the school classroom, because the kids that think, oh, I didn't do that very good, lose that when they see them all together, and they just see all the beauty. They don't see all the things that they might have perceived as not being right. So it's really powerful. It's really cool. So we start out with the square tiles, but there's lots of other shapes as well. We're just going to work on the square, what they call the original square tiles. Okay. They're little, right? Because the intent too is that you could finish a piece of art in a short amount of time. Right? If you only had 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you just sit down and do what you can in that time. Sometimes it takes 2 hours or an hour and a half or 3 days, but you can be done in a small amount of time. Also, you can turn it as you're doing your art, which makes it much easier for your hand. You know, imagine a big canvas and you're trying to do this and down here and over there, right? With a tile, a paper tile, you turn it. And so your hand is staying in the same position, and you just move the paper to meet it. And that's a really powerful part of the method as well. I think you'll quite like that. It's really fun. Okay, and then we're going to use the beautiful pen. It's a permanent, quick-drying, non-bleeding pen. And again, they sourced out the best pen to use with the paper. And I think you're going to love it. And this one's what we call an apprentice pen, and I use it when I'm teaching beginners, because it's a little less easy to wreck. It's got a plastic nib on it. Yeah, I wrecked many a first pen. So it has a plastic end to it, and so it means that you don't have to be quite as delicate as we would with a felt nibbed pen, which is what a lot of people will use. Okay, I like the bolder look too of the plastic, so I use it actually quite a bit. It's one of my favorites. And then the little pencil, again, no eraser on it, because there's no mistakes in Zentangle. I know. And you know what? Why we say that is because it's abstract art. We're not trying to make a picture of a river and a mountain and a cloud, right? We're just making patterns. And so how you interpret that pattern is how you interpret it. How you draw it is how you draw it. There's no right, there's no wrong. Okay? And what we're doing today is even more abstract, in that there'll be no left, right, no up or down. It just looks cool for pretty much anyone. Okay, so pencil. And then we use a little blending tool that we call a tortillon. And it's just a twisted piece of paper with a pointed end, and it allows us to just kind of smooth out the pencil, and we add some shading to it. Really cool, very affordable. And that's all you need.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. And like I said, once you get addicted, in a good way, you add things to your tool set. And so I've got all the colors, I've got all the pencils, I've got all the different markers and watercolors and all kinds of fun things. But literally, this is all you need. And so on the plane, when you go home, right? You only have those little tables on the plane. You can't do much on those, right? You can tangle.
Yeah, this would fit.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Practically anywhere.
You pack that in your purse or your backpack or whatever, and it goes with you wherever you want to go, right? I love to tangle in the airports. I love to tangle on the plane. When my daughter was in school, I would tangle in the car while I waited for her. She was a swimmer, so at the swimming pool while she was doing her lessons or her meets, everywhere. Like, it goes on holidays with me, and I tangle when I'm sitting outside on the picnic bench looking at the mountains. And it's a really portable art method. Okay, another reason I love it. Right? You can't take an oil painting with you when you go on holidays, right? So you have to have a studio, and you have to have hundreds of dollars of supplies. And not that I don't love oils as well, but I really like the portability and the affordability of the Zentangle method. Okay, so one of the things we always start with, gratitude and appreciation, was some of the things on our little bookmark. These are the steps of the Zentangle method. And then breathing. I always start with breathing, and it's really important. I start every class with it. I'm not a yoga teacher. I'm not a breath expert, but it just helps me. And so I'm going to encourage you to do it too. So what I like to do when I start is get comfortable in whatever place you're sitting. And I try to always start with my feet flat on the floor, because it's just better for you. And they don't always end up there, but I always try to start there. And I put my hands on my lap, and I close my eyes. And you just do what feels right for you, but that's what I always do. Close my eyes, just gaze downward if you don't. Feel good doing that. And then I just want you to really focus on taking 3 or 4 good deep breaths in and out at your pace and with whatever lung capacity you have. But just the intent being that you're going to focus on those breaths coming in and out. And just slowing them down. And then open your eyes when you're ready. I always give my fingers a little wiggle jiggle as well, just because sometimes we're not used to using them anymore, right, other than this. And then I actually always do a stretch too. So I always do a stretch over my shoulders and kind of roll them a few times, and then I get started. So I start every class like that. And even for myself, when I'm just tangling for myself, I always start at least with the breaths, and I just kind of always incorporate the stretching just because it feels good. Okay, and then we're going to pick up our pencil. So we're going to start some of the things with our pencil first. Always take a breath before I start to draw, and you won't hear me necessarily all the time. I just will do it, but I encourage you to as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with putting some dots on our paper, and we call this putting corner dots on the paper, and it just really signals that we're starting. Sometimes the hardest part is starting. Where do you start? What do you do first, right? So doing the pencil dots gives us that starting point. Okay, so I take a breath, and then I'm right-handed, so I tend to do a dot up in the corner on the right side, about a pencil width from the edge. There's no measuring, so just somewhere up there, right? And we do it in pencil because the intent is it's just going to fade away at the end, okay? And then let's get into the habit of turning our towel. So I turn my towel. I've got another blank corner up there, and I'm going to put another dot in the corner. When I'm teaching, I do my dots pretty dark, but when I do it for myself, I just do it light. You just want to just kind of see it, but not have it in your face. Okay? And then turn your towel again, and just repeat. Do another dot in another corner, and then one more time, dot in the corner. Now, we always do the corner dots when you start, because it does help you get into that routine. Right? As you blossom and as you start doing more Zentangle, it becomes less part of the process. I don't do them as much anymore, but anytime I teach an intro class, and for the first several classes, we always do the corner dots. Just get into that routine. Okay, the next thing we're going to do with pencil is join them. So we're going to make a frame or a border for our art. Again, we do it in pencil because it's not going to necessarily be noticeable. It's just going to be there subtly in the background. So just a light thing. And we don't use rulers, right? This is all hand drawn. So you just do the best you can, and you're just going to do one long stroke. We're not sketching.
Okay.
We're just going to commit, okay? So you're just going to go top to bottom, and mine's got a little jiggle in it because my hand's stuck on the table, right? That's fine. That's all good. It's pencil. It doesn't matter. Okay? Turn your towel. Do another one, top to bottom. And you can purposely do a little wave in it if you want. That's all right, too. And turn your towel. So your hand stays basically in the same kind of position, and you're just meeting the paper in whatever manner you need to meet it, right? And you create muscle memory by doing repetition, doing that same thing over and over and over again, right? Turning your towel as you go. And then the next part of the Zentangle method is called creating a string. And what a string is it divides our paper into different areas. It takes the stress out of deciding where you're going to place stuff. And so we always do a string in these intro classes as well. And we always do the letter Z, Z for Zentangle. Okay? And so your Z will look different than mine, right? That's good. We're all unique. That's how it's supposed to be. But I will guide you through it. So if you want to do something like mine, and it will be different, I start on the left side, about halfway. Again, we don't measure. And I'm going to kind of curve it up. So it's going to be kind of like a sideways letter Z, up to about halfway. So it's almost like a little sun on the corner there. So left side about halfway to about halfway on the top with a curved line. And then from there, I just come right down to the bottom. And then I'm going to curve it over to the right about halfway. So if you look at it sideways, it looks like a letter Z.
Oh.
Yeah? Isn't that cool? But everyone's Z is different. Like, no one can do the exact same letter Z, right? We're all different, and so is our art. And so your patterns will be like that, too. No two will be the same. We don't do what we call comparanoia. We don't get worried about comparing what mine looks like compared to yours, right? We just appreciate what we can do and enjoy what we can do. And we don't compare stuff. We just don't. Okay. Now we're going to pick up our pens. So this is our kind of our foundation. We've created the corner dots, the border, and the string, which is going to guide us with what we call elegance of limits. And this is something I think Rick coined the phrase. By providing these limits, again, takes the stress out of creating art and allows you just to create. And you don't have to think about it. You're just placing different patterns into these areas. And it's very liberating. It really is. Okay, so the pen, we're going to take the cap off. I always put it on the end to make sure I don't lose it. And I always like to get started on the back of my towel just to make sure it's working, for one. And so I usually start with the date, and it's June 12th today. And you just want to tickle, we call it, tickle the paper. Don't push hard. If you're used to using a pen that doesn't flow so well, you'll push it into the paper, right? These work best with a light touch. And then I always like to kind of use it like a journal. And so I'll say that I was with the Berta bound girls, right? So Berta bound Besties. And that I was here at the farmhouse. So I like to say where I am and what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter where you do it.
Oh, okay. I was like, I wrote on this line.
Perfect. Absolutely. There's no mistakes in Zentangle. So they put the lines there so you could possibly journal back there if you want to. Some people do use it like that. You know, how are you feeling that day? Where were you? What you were doing? That's kind of how I use it. But I just go all over the back. And also to put the names of the patterns. They all have names. So we're going to put some names back there as well. Okay, so the first pattern that we're going to learn, and this is every single beginner class, intro class, is called Crescent Moon. So I like to write that on the back of all my tiles. I write the names of the patterns on the back. Anyone need help with that? And when I first started, I would actually put almost like a little legend, like a little map. On the back, so I'd remember the names. It's not important you remember the names, that's just my kind of thing that I like to do. So afterwards, you might want to just draw a little crescent moon there to remind yourself what it looks like. You don't know what it looks like yet, so you're not going to draw it yet.
I was like, wait.
Afterwards. Okay, so usually what I do is I will demonstrate the pattern, and then I will suggest you watch, and then you will apply it on your towel. You're going to put it wherever you want. One of these sections. Each of the sections will hold a different pattern. Okay, so I'm going to choose this one here. Okay, and I'm going to draw this half moon. So often I play on words, the name of the tangles, because they don't want you to preconceive how it should look, and so often the names don't really make sense even. Isn't that interesting?
Good thing we didn't draw our crescent moon.
I know, so it's actually a half moon. Rick likes to say they look like ladybugs kind of crawling on the line. So I'm going to do Rick's ladybugs here. So what I do is I try not to make them too tiny, though, or we're going to be here till Christmas, and, you know, that's not going to work for you guys, I don't think. So we're going to do these little half moons. And so mine are kind of like reverse C shapes. Remember me talking about fundamental strokes, right? This is one of the fundamental strokes. It's a C shape. So it's a reverse C. So somewhere on this section, on the line, I'm going to do, and I'm wiggly jiggly because I'm a little nervous. So I'm going to do very much my best that I can do in this moment, which isn't perfect, right? No one's perfect. My little reverse C. I'm going to leave a gap, and I usually leave a gap about the same size as the shape of the C. And I'm going to draw another one. And I'm breathing, and I'm taking my time. I'm tickling the paper. I'm going to turn my towel when it gets to the point where I need to turn it. And I'm going to go all the way around that area with these little half moons. Some might go in the corner. Some might have more distance between them than others, just depending on how I draw them. They look like little dragon's teeth, maybe. And then when I get around to where I started, I'm going to do what's called an aura. And an aura is a line that mimics another line, in this case, a C shape. So it's like a little rainbow in this case, because it's that curved shape. So I'm going to do an aura, and it's just going to hover, woo, shaky, 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 over that first one, like a little rainbow. And I'm going to go all the way around that space in my Z string, adding auras on top of every single little crescent moon until I get to the middle. And when I get done, then I'll come back and I'm going to ink in that first crescent moon to give it some drama. So we like a mix of inked in areas, line work, and we'll add some shading with some gray. So I'm just going to keep going taking my time, turning my tile, creating some repetition, and breathing as I do it. And that'll really help your lines just kind of to flow a little bit. And we're going to get right to the middle. But I want to show you something before you get into the zen of doing your own, is that they're going to start bumping into each other. So I want to show you how we deal with that. Okay, so let's say this one's going to start bumping into the one next to it. And so when they get to this point, we can do two different things. I can either do what's called a hollabaugh technique of drawing behind, or I can just hover my aura around everything. So this one has two, this only has one aura right now. And so I could either float an aura going around everything and keep going until I get to the very middle, or I can join them up together so they almost lace together. And that's called the hollabaugh effect. And that's how I usually draw a crescent moon, but sometimes I'll do the floating one too. So I'll show you the hollabaugh one because it makes for some really cool shading afterwards. So then this next one, I have to kind of use my imagination. So I'm imagining if that aura started, where would it start? Probably back here somewhere. Where would it pop out? Probably about here. And so I will start it where I imagine it would pop out and continue on. Do you see how they kind of look like they're linked? Mm-hmm. As I keep going around, when I get back to this one again, this one will come out probably about here because this one will have an aura and it'll stop, right? It can't go any farther. So I stop at what I call an intersection, right? Don't go any farther. Don't cross the line. And then the next one will start again where I imagine it would pop out. And they're just going to kind of weave together. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So take your time, do some breaths, do your best little C shapes in the moment that you can. They won't be perfect, right? And then add your auras until you get right to the middle. Okay, and this is the quiet time of Zentangle. So, right? So we're just doing lots of repetition, turning our towel, making sure we're breathing as we do it. And because you don't really have to think about it, that's where the Zen really comes into play. Because you're just mimicking a line that you've already drawn. Once you get those initial shapes down, don't grip your pen too tight.
I already messed up.
No,
well, no,
there's
I
no
didn't
mistakes.
make a mistake, but I didn't.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's
left
all right.
less space.
That's
than I
okay.
meant to.
No, yours is just, it's going to be unique, right? It'll be your version of crescent. It's all good. So crescent moon, again, is usually the very first tangle pattern most of us learn because, for one, it's easy, right? It really only has one step to it, making that C shape. And that's what the tangle patterns are all about, being easy to remember with few steps, no more than 6. Some of the advanced ones will have up to 6 different steps. This really just has 1, 2 if you count the inking in, I guess, right? But it's easy to remember, and so it becomes what we call our mac and cheese tangles. Ones that you easily remember, they're in your brain, you don't have to think about them, and you can just draw them in the airplane, right? When you're just sitting there and you've got your pen and your paper. And you see how nice that ink flows out, how quick it dries, right? Doesn't smear, doesn't bleed.
That's
and
really nice.
They're beautiful pens, and these are meant, like I said, for the school-age kids because they're a little more affordable, even more so than the regular pens, but still high-quality ink. It's the same high-quality ink they put in all their other pens, so just less quantity in them, right? Don't forget to blink too. Another thing I find when I'm concentrating is I forget to blink, and so it's really important to give your eyes that rest, right? And just keep going right to the very middle. Sometimes I'll ink in the very middle just for, again, a little bit more drama. It's kind of fun.
Do you remember the first tile that you ever did?
I actually brought it.
Really?
Yeah. Because I want, yes, you do. And I'm going to show it to you later because, again, I don't want you to have any preconceived notions. I didn't take a class. There was no one teaching online back then, and there was no one in my town or my city, right? Port St. John, I'm the first CZT. There is another one now. She's a school teacher, but I was the only one here. So there was no one to take a class from. I bought a book. I bought some cheap supplies online and just did my own thing. But I didn't get it, right? And I didn't get it, really, literally, until I went for training. And Rick and Maria taught my first class. So I was sitting there in the seminar, in class, and I went, oh, now I get it, right? Just the breathing and the turning and being deliberate and tickling the paper and just all those things, and you just really get that calm feeling, and it all just comes together.
Yeah.
So I have my first official class tile, but I also have the first ones with the kind of crappy supplies that I did on my own. So actually, I used a sketchbook for my first ones. I didn't bring those ones, but my first ones on tiles, I do have, and they're not the beautiful paper that we have today. Awesome, that's so cool. So appreciation is part of it. Pick it up and appreciate what you've done already, and turn it
Brenda,
around.
that looks so good.
Hey? Like, it's so cool, and they're
Your
so
lines are
different.
so nice.
But they're not. Like, when you, again, I'm shaky today, so when you look at it up close, and you're not meant to look at art up close, right? You're not. But if you do, yeah, you'll see my lines aren't perfect. No one's perfect, right? It's the best you can do in the moment. You're going to fill in now those, and everyone does it at different speeds, so you just do it when you're done. So then you're going to ink in those first little half moon shapes. Just little back and forth, little back and forth, little back and forth. I just very barely touch the paper and just let the ink flow out. It almost acts like a wick, the paper, and it just pulls the ink out of the pen. Now these do take a little longer to dry, so you just want to make sure you know where your hand is as you're moving around on the tile, and that you don't rest over those, because they do take a little longer. There's more volume, right, of ink coming out. Still very quick to dry and very permanent. You can actually watercolor over top of these pens and they won't smear.
Oh, that is
Oh,
very
really?
cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I use a lot of watercolor, water-based products on my Zentangle, so they are very waterproof. And again, archival. The ink is archival. So if you were to keep your Zentangle tiles in a good place, right? Away from direct light and tucked away nicely, your ancestors in 100 years could pull them out and go, oh, look what they did. Look how artistic they were.
That's so fun.
Right? Is that cool to kind of think of? 100 years, 4 generations from now. So that would be your kids' kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids. No, great-great-grandkids. Oh my goodness. That's pretty cool. So Rick and Maria believe in using the best that you can afford. And so when they sourced out the kits, that was their intent. But still affordable, right? But to treat yourself to the best you can. And if that just means they literally say a stick in the sand, then that's what you use. Sometimes some of my school kids, teachers will just use scrap paper from the recycling bin and a pencil. And they'll sit and they'll tangle with their kids after I've been into the classroom when they've used up all their supplies. They'll just use what they have. And when I teach online, I encourage that too. I'm like, just use what you have. Don't go out and spend a whole bunch of money. Yes, I might talk about a certain product. And if you want to get a similar result, you might buy that product, but you don't have to. You literally could do all of my classes with a pen and a piece of paper and a pencil.
And I think that's really nice to make the art so accessible for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because really cost can be a real prohibiting factor for people, right?
For sure, especially with art, like specifically with all the different materials you need, and like one canvas being like $50.
I know,
It's crazy.
right? And the variety of colors and
Yeah.
things, and not to say if you came to my home that you wouldn't see thousands of dollars of art supplies, right? But what you've got is what you need. Oh, you're very quick. Look at that. Okay. And now again, after you've inked it in, take a peek at it from a distance. Art's meant to be viewed at about 3 feet away, right? My arms aren't that long, but it helps you to get a different perspective on it. And look how different they are. We did the same thing, but they're different, right? Totally different.
Yours looks really cool.
I know, I can't wait. I can't see yours from so far away. Right? And everyone draws at different speeds too, and so we'll wait until everyone's caught up and we'll continue on together. Yeah.
Would you say that Fort St. John inspires your art in any way? Or like living here?
No, I don't think so. I can't think of any one thing that would necessarily inspire me. Sometimes I'll go and sit outside somewhere and, just getting the feel of, because it's really beautiful here. If you go out, to the hills and get out of town about 10 minutes, we have some really beautiful views. And so sometimes I'll take my art and I'll go and sit, on the rock somewhere on the side of the river or on a turnout on the road or something out. I love to go out in the fall and see what the fields are like. And yeah, just north of town is a lot of farmers, and then south of town is the river. And I like to do that, but no, I don't think there's any one particular thing that does.
Cool. I was just curious.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I don't really have a good answer for that one, I don't think.
That was a great answer.
Was it?
Yeah.
I think more traditional artists definitely are inspired, and there's almost always an exhibit at the art gallery of local artists, and they're often inspired by the Peace area. Right? That's what we're called, North Peace area. And I belong to an artist group actually that's called Flying Colors Artists Association, and they often have an exhibit, and they'll have a specific theme to it, and it'll be usually scenery of the piece, wildlife of the piece, different things of the Peace area. And, yeah, so they've got a lot of amazing artists. Because it's so abstract, it's not, I can't say. Sometimes I get inspired by a certain plant maybe or something. I like organic tangles, so I do a lot of floral kind of things, right? Like this is, floral kind of stuff. This is like that magnet, not the magnet, this has got sparkle in it.
Oh my gosh, that's so pretty.
So that's buying some new pens and having some fun with glitter, right? Wow. So maybe that was inspired a little bit. This is kind of a Valentine-y kind of themed organic that I did.
Wow. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Right, just kind of thinking about Valentine's. That was trying some different pens.
This is so cool.
So is that a white pen on red paper?
Yes,
Wow.
and it's just cardstock. I didn't buy any special paper. It's just cardstock.
That's so pretty.
But yeah, I love the white. These are called jelly rolls. They have lots of cool colors and things, right? This was kind of a spring tile that I did, thinking of spring flowers.
That's so pretty.
Yeah, this one has some glitter in it too.
I love the glitter. That's
Me too.
So fun.
That was a Valentine. This one I did called a karma class, and so my students make a donation to me, but I then forward that donation on to a local nonprofit. And so this was what we taught in February, because my birthday's in February.
Aww.
On Valentine's Day.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cute.
So then I had to do a heart, So I do it for my birthday. It's kind of like my gift to me. And so these were the tiles that were for that class. So yeah, so it's simple stuff again, but a few more supplies, right? So we needed to have a marker to do the color base, and then a white pen and a black pen. And still simple. But kind of,
gorgeous.
Yeah, inspired by whatever time of year and whatnot. So, okay, ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay, so that was crescent moon. Now you know how to draw crescent moons. So if you want to draw a little legend on the back, to me that was really helpful when I was starting out, because it's hard to remember names. Again, it's not important to remember names, but it's kind of fun if you choose to do so. Now, my daughter did this one the other day. She did a really cool version of it. She's kind of did them back to back, and so it was almost like an S stroke, and she did crescent moon on one side and then the opposite side.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was super fun. So kind of like this. She had crescent moon facing different directions and made a whole chain of them.
Oh, wow.
Right? There's so many ways,
cool.
right, that you can do it. Crescent moon has so many options. This is just one. And most of the patterns are like that. Like, I'll show you one way to draw it, but there's multitudes of ways. So you can change it up and make it your own. And that's often what we'll explore if I do a class that has time to do the second tile, is that we would explore how to change it up, shake it up, if you will. And yeah, right? Because, I mean, you could draw crescent moon this way all the time, but it's fun to try it different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one. This one is actually called hollabaugh. So we talked about the hollabaugh technique, but it's also a pattern. Now I'll show you how to spell this one because it's a little bit funny. So it's HOLLIBAUGH. And this one's named after a family member. So so it's a real family business. Not my family, their family. And the two daughters actually work with Rick and Maria. So they're Maria's daughters, and one is married to Mr. Hollabaugh. And so this one's named for him. I believe he created it even. Yep.
Oh.
And he was in, I believe, my CZT class, if I remember right. He got trained as a CZT as well. So that's what happens. The neighbor gets trained and the sister gets trained. Everybody's part of the family. It's really cool. Okay, so Hollabaugh teaches us a little bit more about the drawing behind, and that's how we layer the patterns, is by drawing behind and stack them on top. And so this one's really all about that. And it's kind of like, I guess he was inspired, hopefully I'm correct, with a stack of 2x4s in his garage, right? Or think about pickup sticks. Right? To me, I think about a big city like Edmonton and how the road system kind of is one on top of each other. And that's what I see. Abstract art is what you see, right? So whatever you think it to be is correct, right? So we're going to draw Hollabaugh. Again, you're going to choose wherever you want to place Hollabaugh. Easy part, right? We're just filling in the spaces. So Hollabaugh is meant to be parallel lines. Now, they might have a little curve to them or they might be straight, whatever you decide that they're going to be. But we're going to start with one line. And then we're going to add an aura. We did auras with our crescent moon, but they were C-shaped auras. Now they're going to be straightish line auras. Auras mimic a line that you already drew. So you decide how wide, and you're going to add an aura to that first line. Mine's got a little curve on it. I'm going to turn my tile because that makes it easier to draw. And I'm going to choose another space and draw another one. But I'm going to stop when I get to the intersection. Right? Just like we did with Crescent Moon, imagine where would it pop up under that bridge, road, 2x4, whatever you think it is. Where would it pop out and come out the other side? Okay. Take a breath. I'm going to add an aura to it. I'm going to stop at the intersection, go under it, pop out the other side. And I'm just going to keep building this space, maybe with some curved ones, maybe with some straight ones, going under whatever I bump into until I'm happy with what I've got in that area. And I'll know that I'm done when I'm done by just picking it up and taking a peek at it and going, yeah, that looks good, or oh, I maybe need one over there. Okay, so you're going to decide how wide, where you're going to place them, how many of them, whether they have a curve, whether they're straight, however you want them to be, and you're going to fill this one section of our string in with those. Does that make sense? Yes. Awesome. So don't forget to breathe. Be deliberate with your lines. Take your time. Don't push too hard on your pen. Tickle the paper, we call it. And sometimes you have to go under 2 or 3 of those Hollabaughs. And sometimes I'll incorporate kind of the border, and sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling. If I want to ink in the border with one of the Hollabaughs, I can do that. And you can keep it as light or as heavy as you want. Sometimes I'll vary the width of them. Some might be a little bit narrower than others. And sometimes I'll even kind of decorate them like a road if I'm really feeling like I want it to look like that. I'll do the dots and dashes like a highway, you know, down the middle of it if I feel like it. And again, when you think you're done, just hold it out, take a peek at it, turn it around, see if maybe you need something else. It's kind of bare this way, so I'm going to do another one. Going down. And sometimes you got to really pay attention to what is actually a Hollabaugh and what's negative space when you get so many in there.
Yeah.
It can get a little overwhelming. And again, Hollabaugh has so many different ways to draw it. You could, you know, make the lines jagged. You can make them really skinny. You can curve them or not curve them. Add patterns on them or add patterns in the negative space in between. It's really stunning too if you black in the background, but I rarely do that in class because it takes too long.
Yeah.
But if you were to do it on your own, that's really
that
stunning.
would look really cool.
Awesome. I like how your lines are kind of fanning around your space, almost like they're moving with that curve of your Z line. Don't forget to breathe. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Super cool. Now, I do want to mention when you're not using your pen, you want to make sure that you cap it because they will dry out. So if you lose that cap, it's toast. All right. So, you know, any length of time. I don't often cap it in between, but anytime you put it down. And you want to store them horizontal. They're best kept flat. Not in a cup, because they'll either dry out or they'll leak. So they're best kept like this. And I don't keep them in my car. Like I travel with them a lot, but I don't keep them in extreme temperatures. I try and keep them kind of room temp. So if in the winter I bring them in the summer I bring them in, and just try not to get too hot or too cold. Right. If they do get frozen, which, you know, sometimes I order them in the winter and they'll get frozen on delivery, then I just let them sit for a day before I unbox them or before I try to use them.
Yeah, give them that time to unthaw.
Yes, just to kind of get back to that room temperature, right?
Yeah.
I haven't had any leak, but sometimes I've heard people say that they'll leak on planes. So I do put them in a Ziploc. By themselves.
Yeah.
So if you're going to travel back with them, just tuck them in a Ziploc, make sure it's sealed, and then you can put it in your little bag. Or
Good to know, thank you.
Yeah, just in case. Sometimes the air pressure, I mean, it's not that high from here to Alberta, but you don't get up that high. But sometimes, you know, if you're traveling internationally.
Yeah, I never even thought that planes would fly at different heights, but obviously there's more than one plane in the sky at every single time.
Yeah,
so.
and short
I didn't know
distances.
that either.
I never thought
Short
of that.
distances, they don't get up as high, right? So when you're just flying these
Oh,
little.
wow. We're learning so much from you.
Oh, I know. Okay, just hang out with me. You'll learn all kinds of stuff. That's why your ears pop usually more when, well, if you have that issue, I do.
Yeah, mine
on
are
longer
really
flights.
bad.
Yeah, so I can fly to Vancouver usually okay, right, without them. But if I fly to Phoenix or Florida or Toronto, then I'm like, oh, they don't. Yeah,
it
3
hurts.
days, 4 days, before they settle in. So.
You can't hear anything.
Can't
you're
hear.
angry.
It sounds like you're underwater. Yeah, it hurts, right?
Terrible.
Hurts, yeah. Awesome. Can I see yours a little closer because I'm kind of blind? Oh, very cool. Yes, I love the extra curves you put in there. Very nice. Good job. Okay, so that was Hollaba. Again, if you want to put a little kind of legend on the back, I usually
like that one. I think that one's my
yeah, it's really fun. It's very relaxing, isn't it?
Them too, Rochelle. There's so much room for
Hey.
No, I'm calling it. That's my favorite.
See, that's when you asked me what my favorite art was. That's kind of how it works, right? It is whatever you're doing in the moment. Okay, so the next one we're going to do, pardon me, is, now I told you kind of the story about Hollaba, right? It's named after somebody. Printemps is the name of the next one. I don't know, is anyone good in French? Do you take French in school? Or?
Bridget knows a little.
I did.
Yeah, do you recognize that word?
There's a mall in France, in Paris. That's called that.
Okay, well it's spring. It's the season spring in French.
Cool.
Oh.
And I don't pronounce it properly. I'm not French. My daughter did French immersion all through school, so then she laughs at me every time I pronounce things. But printemps is a play on words because it's the season spring is what the word means. But we're going to do a spring-like looking tangle. It's a spiral.
Oh.
So it's definitely a play on words. I don't know where the inspiration came from this one. Some people see clouds. Some people see lollipops. Some people see flowers. Again, it's abstract, so it is whatever you think it is. And I'll show you how to actually draw that one. We're going to do, again, wherever you want to put it on your towel is up to you. Okay, so you got 2 spaces. Sometimes it pops in over here under my Hollaba. Like it'll just kind of fly over the edge, right?
Yeah.
And it goes in there. So, and printemps, I often like to kind of push it outside my border too, and that's why we do it in pencil. So if you want to go outside the border, you can do that, right? And so often printemps does that. I'm going to do it in the smaller area just because that's where I like to do it. I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to start in the middle. So this one's an aura, a continual aura in a spirally roundish shape, okay? So this one is starting in the middle, and you're going to go either left or right, whatever feels natural to your hand. Everyone does it different. I'm just going to spiral. To me, it looks like a cinnamon bun. And then when I get as big as I want it to be, I'm going to squeeze that dough shut and add it to the line that was there already. Okay, I'll show it again. So when I want them to overlap, like Hollaba, I want to get close enough that it's going to bump into it. If I don't want it to overlap, I'll go over here somewhere, right? But if I want to layer them using the Hollaba technique, I want to go close. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to start that spiral, and maybe this one's a little tighter. It's going to eventually bump into this one. And so you know what I'm going to do. Stop, right? Hit the intersection. I'm going to imagine where would it pop out. And then I will squeeze it shut to close it off. And so you can vary the width of them to get different looks. You can make some smaller, some bigger, some might be more oval shaped. Sometimes I do them square or triangle shaped. But yeah, again, there's so many ways you can draw it, right? So it's meant to be, though, a spiral of some kind. So I'm just going to keep building my spirals up, probably going over top of this border here and that one there, or string line, I guess that would be, and the border here. Right? Just because I don't want to stop them there. I want to keep going and kind of form this. So I'm just going to fill the space with as many as I want until that space is ready to go, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, any questions on that one?
Nope.
All good? Okay, so again, take a breath and really focus on tickling the paper, making sure you blink. This is one where I really get kind of zoned into it, and I forget to blink, so I try to encourage people to do that. And breathe. And this one's a love-hate tangle, I find. People either love it right off the bat, or they just seem to not love it so much. But I always encourage people to keep trying it because I can often turn them into lovers of it. It's a great tangle. We call it a filler tangle. And so it can fit literally in any space. So I add it to almost every tile I do. You'll probably see print on most of my tiles. Did you notice I did them heart-shaped on this one?
I did notice that. I was going to say that. Those are so pretty.
So that's a print on.
Yeah.
But I did it, well, basically it's a print on, but in a heart shape. I think actually someone called that, there's another name for it, but I think of it as print on. And everyone seems to have their own unique take on this one. This one you always end up with a lot of different variations because it looks so different if you do it really, really, really tight versus really loose, really small versus large. Like it really takes on a different life depending on how you draw it. Make sure that you're not scrunching your shoulders up, that you're feeling, you know, relaxed and you're not holding tension there too. Right, that's easy to do if you're not breathing.
It's funny because I always forget that I do those things until people call me out on it.
I know. Same.
Yeah, I never realized how many times I hold my breath.
Yeah, I know. It's I taught. My daughter was in French immersion, and so we used to do a summer camp every year. And I was trying to teach one of the counselors, monitors we call them, to tangle. And she held her breath pretty much the whole time, and she had a horrible headache when she was done. I'm like, that's why, and I kept trying to remind her, you need to breathe, you need to breathe, you need to breathe, right? But she was holding her breath and locking her jaw almost, right? And so that creates all that tension down your neck and your shoulders when you do that. So that's why, to me, it's really important to focus on your breath, tickle the paper, and just all of those things just make it part of the relaxation aspect. Yeah, and so mine kind of fell off the border, bumped into my hollabah, right? And I might actually even extend that hollabah so it looks like it's coming out from under there. And like I said, sometimes they just kind of float over and end up underneath my hollabah. That's kind of fun. Hide a few in there. So what do you think of that one? Is it a love or a hate?
I kind of like it.
Yeah, I like it. It's interesting that you say that people use it to, like when they have a block, because my 5th grade teacher would tell me that if I couldn't write, to do like squiggles and do this, so I would like jog my memory. Do you remember that? Miss Head used to say that to us.
I never
Did you have the same teacher?
That's
Did you
so
have
cool.
the same teacher?
Oh
Yeah, we met when we were 10.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah.
My best friend and I met when we were 10.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness!
she still lives here too. Yeah. Well, she was 10, I was 9. I was in grade 2, whatever age you are in grade 2.
That's so cute.
Yeah. That's really cool.
It's really
You truly are besties.
Yeah.
Aw.
Stuck with each other.
Oh yeah,
That's awesome.
in the best way.
That's pretty cool. You guys are living life this way together. Huh?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great job to have.
Okay.
It is. Meet a lot of nice people.
Get to travel all to places you probably never would have come to Fort St. John.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love how you're filling in the background with just little itty bitty ones. That's a great idea. Another thing you can do too is ink in the background where they don't quite meet up, and that makes some really good, again, drama, we call it, when you ink in some areas.
So I can just color it in?
You can do whatever you want. It's your art, your choice.
Yeah, that's right.
The beauty of Zentangle is there's a bit of structure to it, right? There's the steps and there's the process of the deconstructing of the tangles and making them easy to draw, but there's so much flexibility and so many ways you can make it your own.
Yeah.
And I think that's often the misconception, is people think it's really rigid, and it's not. Like, there's just so many ways to make it your own. But again, with enough structure to make it easy to do and to prevent those stuck kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just pick a tangle, put it on your paper, right? And you're going to end up with this really cool thing. And you're going to love the mosaic when we put the three of them together. I should see if I brought I don't think I brought, in my book I do. I was going to say a fourth tile, because it makes it really cool to see when there's 4 tiles that are similar.
For like a full picture.
For a full mosaic, yeah. Oh, actually, this is one I did. I went to Arizona in February, and my friend has a massage chair. And we were all certified Zentangle teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge was to sit in her massage chair with just a pen and a pencil and a tile. And this is my tangling done in the massage chair.
Wow.
That looks amazing.
I don't like how jiggly wiggly it is, right? Because I was doing this as I was trying to tangle.
It still looks so good, though.
I know, right?
It
But
does,
and that
yeah.
was so again I wrote massage tangling and the date on the back. So we'll put that
Aw.
into our mosaic, because that's my Arizona one.
That's awesome.
That was so funny. And sometimes we'll tangle with our non-dominant hand, just again to get out of your head.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's
and
a really
to
interesting idea,
challenge
actually.
yourself a bit, and to again take away some of those, it has to be perfect thoughts, right?
Yeah.
I don't like my line there, and oh, it's wiggly there, right? If you do it with your non-dominant hand, it's going to be that way,
Oh,
right? So you're
yeah.
not going to be most of us are not great with our non-dominant hand.
Well, I
So-
would be brutal. with
Right?
my
Oh, I'm
non-dominant
horrible.
hand.
Yeah, I'm not a lefty by any means. So that's another way to kind of just shake it up and get out of your head
Yeah.
a little bit, right? It's like, oh, that's not perfect. Oh, that one's not. It's not supposed to be perfect. That's
Yeah.
what it is,
That's the
right?
beauty of it.
That's the beauty. Can I see your print?
Yeah.
Oh, you do such fine, tiny. See, that's the difference, right? Look how different they are.
Oh, wow.
You wouldn't even guess they were the same tangle, right? Like,
Yeah.
you've got so much drama with the tight lines, right? And mine are more airy, right? And you're going to have drama with the background. Look how cool that looks.
That looks so cool.
Right? That's amazing. Good job.
Thank you.
I love print tops. It's one of my favorites. It really is on. It's funny. I'm looking and I'm not seeing print tops on any of these, but I
Oh my
use it a
goodness,
lot.
That one's amazing.
Hey, isn't that fun?
Yeah.
That was a class I did. I have a club that I call Deb's Tanglers Club,
Mm-hmm.
and so anyone that's taken a paid class with me,
Mm-hmm.
I try to offer. It doesn't happen every month, but I try to offer a class several times throughout the year for free, and
Oh,
so
nice.
those people can take a class. And this one was from. Oh, I'm sorry. This might have been a paid one. This was in April. That was a paid one. But I do that. This is one from Tanglers Club for sure. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So tan paper is another variety of paper that the Zentangle people come up with.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Okay. And so you can use the black pen on it plus a brown pen. The kit comes with a brown pen, so that
nice.
different color pen.
Mm-hmm.
And then white as well, the white jelly. So you add all those things into it. And then I add a little bit of color with some pastel chalks on that
Yeah,
one.
that's so pretty. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Oh, there's always something, right? And then they have gray tiles as well. So then blue looks amazing on the gray. Oh, you
my
talked about favorite
goodness.
tiles. My recent favorite one's this one.
Oh my gosh, that's stunning.
The way
Yeah.
you do like the little like pearl detail is crazy.
And it's so, again, it's so simple, right? It's
Yeah.
not difficult. It's just another technique.
That is
And
But it looks like.
look at those little berries. They're called poke root, those little guys.
like, look at that.
So using a toned paper towel, so the tan or the gray,
Yeah.
really allows you to use the lights and the darks in a
Mhm.
different way.
Yeah.
And to really make things pop. And so the whites really pop on those colors, right? And it's kind of an intermediate, it's kind of the progression of classes. So we always start with the white on, or black on white. And then I love to teach then the tan toned paper with the black and the brown. And then actually black tiles, which I don't think I have a regular
Oh.
black tile.
That would be so pretty.
But this wouldn't be a class. Well, it's a class, but not a beginner black tile.
That is
Wow.
beautiful.
But the black's amazing. Things just shine on it, right? That's
Yeah,
Prismacolor
So
pencils on it.
shiny.
But a white pen, so it's like positive, negative. White pen on the black, and then we go with the gray. And so after you've done those 4, you've got a really good understanding of Zentangle and the methods, and you have all the different supplies. You've got the black, the brown, the blue, the white pen, right? And all the different color papers and a couple different pencils and some tortillons. And so you've got a really good base at that point. And lots of tangles, right, that you've got up here in your memory. Okay, how are we doing? We've got one more space to fill in, right?
Let's do it.
Doesn't time fly?
Yeah.
Right? So we've been at it for about an hour, right? And time just slips away.
Yeah,
You
it
can
feels like
ease-
15 minutes,
I
honestly.
know, doesn't it? I know, a 2-hour class goes so fast. Imagine my 45-minute ones.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
hard.
yeah, that would be hard to finish a whole tile.
It is hard. We try and keep them a little simpler, but we would never get this much done in 45 minutes. Okay, so one last one, and we're doing what's called a grid-based tangle, and this one's called Floors, Florz. Again, a little play. We often use the letter Z in our tangle names. And this one was inspired by I was going to say, I think it's on this little paper here. It was inspired by the kitchen floor, I believe, of Rick and Maria's home. So, you know, we all have inspiration for tangles, right? And like I said, it could be architecture, it could be clothing, it could be tapestries, it could be nature, whatever. Tile floors, right? So this one is called a grid-based tangle. So we do grids without rulers, right? That stresses some people out. That's okay. We hand draw them, and they're all going to be different. They're all going to look a little different. So what I like to do is put it in this last space. We have nowhere else to go, right? So we're going to do our grid in here. What's kind of fun to do with a grid is to put a little curve on the lines, right? We could do a really straight one, and I usually do that in a beginner class, but you guys are doing so well, we're going to go all out.
Advanced.
Okay. So what I like to do with a grid, if I've got a corner that I can kind of aim towards, whether it be this corner or that corner, I'm going to put a little curve on those grid lines to kind of fade into that corner. I think that might be fun. So again, you'll watch me probably first, then do it on yours. So I'm going to start with that center one, just because I know that's where I want it to kind of go. And then I'm going to aura them. And the intent is to get square-ish shaped boxes out of it, but because we've got this kind of funky angle on it, they're not going to be perfectly square, right? That's okay. And wide enough, probably about a pen width, that we can add a little decoration in them. Okay, so you don't want them too tiny. Not too tiny, not too big. So I'm going to just follow that. It's an aura. We're going to add an aura following that curve and go all the way on one side. And then I turn my tile, because I like to be able to draw to the right of everything so I can see it, right? So that makes it easier. So then I'm going to follow that curve line again, and I'm going to come in on this side. Oh, look, it matches up with that line. And we'll just kind of imagine this one. Okay, so I've got my grid lines that are going this way, and then I'm going to turn my tile and draw lines across. So I like to turn it so I can draw towards myself. So those are going to go horizontal on my page. I'll add a little curve to this one too. Okay, so I'll start over here. Again, I'm going to start in the middle because I like to draw to the right of things. And this one's actually going to go right under my hollowbah there. Let's bump it in there. You see how I'm making boxes now? And they're just tucking right in. Turn it again to make it easier. And I've got this little bit of curve. And these ones are going to kind of disappear under that border, right? So they kind of fall away under the border. So I've got these kind of funky, curvy grid lines. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so whatever way you want to add a curve on yours, go ahead and do that. If you want to keep them straight, you can do that too. Whatever feels right for you. I'm getting quite the water mark over there. And curves are just fun. You can do it straight, and I often do it straight, but the curves just add a little more kind of motion to it too. No, oops.
Just a wow, interesting choice, Bridget.
So you're going to have some really, really, really tiny little embellishments, and that's okay. Again, it's just going to look different. That's all good. You got young eyes, so you can do it. You can make it work. So their kitchen floor had a diamond shape in it, and actually we have a bathroom floor that's very similar from the 90s, right? So old school floors. And so we're going to place a diamond in every intersection of our little boxes here. So do you have your stem, Rochelle?
Yes.
Okay. So again, I try to demo one in a full box so you can see the whole thing, because where it kind of fades off, you might just see part of one. And again, we'll use our imagination in some of those areas where you just see part. So I'm going to show you in a full one. And you're going to do yours tiny because you got tiny little boxes. So I'm going to put a diamond shape in every spot where I have a 4-way intersection. Okay. And yours will be little diamonds. Okay. See how mine take up about maybe just under a third of the space, right? You could have it take up bigger space if you wanted, or you can have it take up smaller space if you want. Okay. And so I'm just going to go down and fill in. And I like a little bit of curve on my diamonds too. I think that's kind of fun. So it's almost like a little C curve on those diamonds too. And then ink them in. And so I usually do all of the ones that you see a full solid diamond in first, and then I'll go back to the ones where you might just see a bit of one. So where, you know, got one tucked in maybe under your printemps, and you just see maybe part of one. And you can change the shape of them too. If your boxes start to get smaller in certain areas, maybe your diamond gets a little smaller in some of those areas. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. And with floors too, sometimes I'll shake it up. And so sometimes I'll just do a little circle or an orb instead of the diamond. Maybe I'll do a heart, which I do lots of heart things because of my Valentine's Day birthday. Sometimes I'll do a little heart in there. Sometimes I'll add an extra aura around the diamond, and that makes it look a little different as well. So there's lots of ways that you can do all the patterns, all the tangle patterns. And then again, make sure you're not gripping your pen. I always try and remind people, because we do tend to tense up as we get going. Make sure you're blinking.
I like this one.
The grid patterns I used to, when I first started, they weren't all my favorites. I think because I'm very much a type A personality outside of Zentangle. And so I like the real structure of a grid pattern. But as I've kind of progressed and gone on, I do find I'm very drawn to the organics. And so I think most of my recent Zentangle work tends to be very organic. But I still have a love for the grid patterns, especially if you do them a little wonky. So there's lots of different kind of categories of tangles, and so grid being one of them, organic, border tangles, which sometimes people call ribbon tangles. That might be kind of what we did on the black tile, right? So as you fit them between kind of two lines, right, to make a ribbon or a border. Yeah, lots of different blossom tangles, which might be just one kind of main organic tangle that looks a bit more flowery. Filler tangles like the printemps. Tipple is a really popular one, and it looks just orbs all nestled together, almost like soap bubbles. If you were to have a sink full of soap bubbles, you know how they all kind of touch each other? Tipple is like that.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And again, I use it a ton. I'm not sure if I have really, well, they've done some bigger ones on here, but there's some big tipple there.
Oh, yeah, that's so nice.
Yeah, lots of different things.
That's
There's
so
their
cool.
printemps. Hundreds, thousands probably actually of tangle patterns, and people are coming up with them all the time.
That's so fun.
Yeah, deconstructing them and naming them.
Sorry, I don't know
Zentangle.
if I missed it, but how many patterns are there?
Oh, there's no, it's an infinite amount.
Okay.
Yeah, you honestly cannot keep track of them because every day someone's coming up with a new one. I have a couple of my own that I have on my socials. Yeah.
That's so cool.
One that was a flower that I drew, I call it flame flower because it looks a bit like a poinsettia. But I've drawn it since I was a little girl, and so I deconstructed it. Are you done already?
I think so.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Some of my diamonds did not make it to be diamonds, but that's okay.
That is okay. That is okay.
Some of them are diamonds in the rough.
There you go. Good job. Okay, so then the last thing we do is we add some identification to it. So we call it our chop. And a chop is an artist's way of signing their work on the front of something, and a Zentangle artist especially. So it's usually your initials, and some people make them very decorative. And actually, if we look at Rick and Maria's, let's see if we can see them on there. thing, they change them up quite regularly. I do the same one all the time. And you can hide it in somewhere. You can put it right out front, wherever you want. I do my first initial, and I've done this too since I was a young girl. So I used to be an R for a last name. Now it's a B, and they're very similar. So my chop has stayed the same. So I always do my D, and then I nestle my B right up next to it, and then I add a little heart. So that's my chop. And then you sign the back, because an artist always signs their work. And then we're going to add some pencil to it. So they look pretty cool right now, and this is usually the time I tell people to take a picture, although you've been taking pictures all along. But before shading is really a good time to take a picture, because it does really change up after you add some pencil. And a lot of people are scared to add the pencil, but again, it's just paper, right?
You can do the so.
Make sure you cap your pen. And now we'll add a little shading, and then we'll take a picture. We'll do the mosaic and see how things look all together. Okay. So before we do that, though, let's take a second and appreciate what you've done already, right? Because they're pretty cool, but they look better from an arm's length, right? You're not meant to look at art like this. You're meant to look at it like this. And so, very cool. Right? And turn it around, because again, with Zentangle art, for the most part, there's never a bottom or top, left, right. It looks cool from whatever angle. This is where, after you sleep on it, tuck it away somewhere where you'll see it in the morning, in the mirror or whatever, and look at it with fresh eyes in the morning, because you're going to be even more surprised at how cool it looks, right? How do you feel being, you say, a non-creative person?
I feel good. I feel like it's different, and thinking about the grid, I feel like it's because I'm a type A personality, but I was also like, oh, I like that there's like the structure there.
Yes.
But it's fun.
It is fun.
It's different than anything I've ever made before, so I'm proud of myself.
Awesome. Good. You're going to be even more proud once you add some shadow to it. Okay, some shading. So in Zentangle, we don't shade for, the light source is over here, so the shadows should be over here, right? Because it's abstract. Yeah. And so we just shade for dimension, really, and for drama. So we want things to kind of show some curvature, maybe, with our really cool grid that we've got. Maybe we want to show some things on top of other things, so they cast a shadow. Maybe we want to have a shadow create some depth into some of the patterns. And so I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different things. It's only one way. There's multiple ways to shade, right? So this is just one. And takes some practice. Shading is probably the stuff that does take the longest to kind of get the feel for. Okay, so I'll start with the first one that we did. So when I look at Crescent Moon already, and again, because I put that black space in the middle, I already have that depth, right? You're already seeing it kind of fall away. What I like to do with Crescent Moon is I like to really emphasize that. So we've already got that look, and I'm just going to emphasize it. So wherever we put some shadow is where it's going to look like it's receding. Yeah, that's what shadow does. And so I'm going to, with my pencil, and I like to use kind of the side of it, not the point of it. I don't want to scratch the paper. So I just want to add a little layer right around that middle part. And if you didn't do black in the middle, that's fine. Just kind of those first couple, I don't know, they're almost like stairs at this point. Those first couple stairs, I'm going to add a little bit of shading in there. Use my tortillon now to smooth it out and blend it. And again, I like to use the side of it just to kind of preserve it a little bit longer as best I can. It will just naturally flatten out eventually, but you can kind of prolong it by using the side of it. It'll sound scratchy the first couple times too, because it's new, right? So I'm going to just, in a circular motion, kind of soften up those pencil lines. And then I can move that pencil with the tortillon as well, and I'll create different shades of gray. So just smoothing it out first, softening it up, and now watch what happens when I pull it. So I can pull it up, and again, this paper is just made for this pencil, and I get a different shade of gray. Oh, wow. Right. If you're not seeing it, you can always go back in and add more to the middle to make it even darker. And what we want to do with shading is we want to just add a little bit to give it some dimension, not make everything gray. So some of my students get carried away and they make everything gray. It just makes it flat again, right? So you want to have some black from the ink, you want to have some white space, and you want to have some gray. So when you hold that at arm's length, right? Doesn't that change it up?
Yeah.
Right? And just a second. It takes a second.
Yeah.
But what I like to do when I create this kind of crescent moon is I like to show the division even between those moons where we had them overlap. And so sometimes I'll go back in and right where they meet up, so where they're kind of crossing over, I'm just going to put some pencil there. And it, again, almost makes it look like tunnels when we get all said and done here. And again, just be careful you don't put too much. We have no eraser, so we can't take it away. And this I won't carry so far. So I'm just going to soften it up a little bit. And you're going to see all these kind of tunnel kind of look come out of it.
That's so cool.
Isn't that neat? Right? So that's what shading does, is it just kind of goes poof, everything just kind of pops out, right? So that's one way of shading crescent moon. Another way I like to do it is I like to make the whole section look like it's falling away, so it's almost like it's in the basement. And if I do it now, it's going to be too much. But I would go all the way around the outside where I drew the string line, and it would make this whole area look like it's below.
Sunken in.
Yeah, so it looks really, really cool. If all your other patterns up next to it, it would work really good on yours because your patterns just butt up to it and they don't hide under it, right? So then you could really make it go. And if I do that, I try to avoid the black areas because the pencil makes it shine a little bit. So I just go over the white areas in between all of those, and I go really dark with it. And you really can make it fall away. And you probably have enough room in your middle. You could even put a little in the middle. And yours almost looks like a spider web when you look at it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Right, so just some ideas that, again, they're not the only ones. And everyone just kind of has their own way of shading. And it's something you get better with as you practice, right? My first attempts at shading are pretty fun. Not very attractive, right? And even today, sometimes my shading, sometimes I'll revisit it and go, oh, it needs a little more. Or, oh, I shouldn't have done it quite so dark there. But always hold it at arm's length after you shade, because that's when you really see the effect of it. And you can pull it out a little bit.
Out beam.
Yep, out towards the middle. Cool. So you're getting the basement look and you're kind of getting the tunnel look there. Hold it at arm's length right now and take a peek. That looks really neat. Hey?
Cool.
Oh, that looks so good, Bridget.
Doesn't it? Yeah, I have to see yours closer when you get yours done.
I'm not done, I think.
Oh, that looks good. Yeah, and let me hold it for you because that's where you really see it.
Oh, yeah, that looks pretty cool.
I know. When you hold it up close, you don't really notice it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that looks cool. And if you wanted to do the segments, you could do that
I think
too.
I'm gonna do that because I like how yours turned.
Yeah, it looks really neat too.
Cool.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, it really makes it look different, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Just a little bit of pencil.
I didn't even know, like, I know about shading, but I never understand, like, how to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Typical, regular, normal art shading is a lot more technical. With the Zentangle, we really just do it for effect. And, yeah, a lot of people are scared too. They won't even try it. But I always say it's just paper. If you don't like it, try it again another time. And maybe you'll do something a little different and you'll like it. And you do get better at it the more you do it. So I don't love some of my first ones. That's for sure.
Everybody starts somewhere.
That's right. Exactly. I'll hold it at arm's length. Yeah. Hey, isn't that cool?
Good job.
Super fun. Super fun. Okay. So then Hollabaugh, because it's really all about the kind of overlap, I think it's quite easy to shade. I just look for where it overlaps. So that very first one that I did, I see several kind of bridges or roads below it. And so I'm just going to put a little bit, and it's really easy to get carried away with Hollabaugh. So sometimes I just concentrate on a few that overlap. So if you see this one, you see that it goes over this one and over that one. Oops, and this one too. And so I'm just on the outside kind of imagining that's casting a shadow onto those bridges or roads or 2x4s, right? And again, I don't want to bring it out too far more. And this one's really easy to get carried away with, but I just want to soften it up and bring it out a little bit. And then take a peek at just that one when you do that one.
Oh,
wow.
cool.
Right? But don't get carried away with it, because if you do all of them, it just ends up a big gray mess, right? So I usually just focus on a couple that I really want to be kind of the ones that stand out, and just shade a few of them. So maybe the first couple that I did. And so I might go down and add a little bit. See how nice that pencil is on the paper though, and how the tortillon, it's almost like butter, right? And it just, and it can go a long way. The pencil can go a long, long way. So I'm just going to focus on, say, 3 of my halibas and just shadow where they cross over. Another one. And then I think that's enough. I'm going to look at it at arm's length and decide if I like that. But I think if I had too much, it's just going to get kind of messy. What do you think of that?
That's really cool.
It is cool, isn't
How do you decide when a piece is done?
it? Sometimes they're not. Sometimes I keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and that's okay, right? Yeah, just when you get to a point where you go, oh, okay, I like that. And sometimes I'll pick it up the next day and add a little bit more, take something away, or, you know, change it up a little bit. But yeah, sometimes it takes a long time to figure that out. Now, Printemps, yours is pretty bold and beautiful already. Often I don't touch it. I sometimes just, I like it, right? It is what it is, and it doesn't need, and sometimes if I add shadow to it, I don't like it afterwards. And same with yours. You've got such great texture with your tight lines. I don't think I'd do anything to it. If anything, I might shade where it overlaps something, like mine overlaps my floors, and so I might do that, and that's all I'm going to do, because I just like Printemps the way it is. Often, again, you could shadow around maybe one that's floating on top of the other, so maybe that very first one, and you might do a few like that. But again, if I find if I do too many of them, yeah, it doesn't look so good, right? So I tend to, with Printemps, especially if I've got it floating over another pattern, I'll just go around where it does float over and just do a little bit of pencil. And I'm using kind of the point of it this time because I don't want it to be very wide. So I'm going right up next to the lines. And I'm going to then just soften that up, just so it looks again like it's casting a shadow on that space below it. I could use the side of it. And you should see it look like it's, again,
looks so cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't think it'll work on yours, because yours is pretty, and I don't think it will on yours either. So I would just leave them, right? I think they look good the way they are. Now, because we did this kind of funky thing with floors, I want to emphasize the funky thing with floors, right? So I'm seeing some movement. I'm already seeing it kind of curve this way, and I want to emphasize that. So I'm just going to do some perimeter shading, is what we call it. So I'm just going to go all the way around it. It's already got some there. I'm going to do some here. I usually hold the pencil actually up against the line is better. And when I bring it out, it's going to really make it look like it's kind of curved. And this, I'm going to get a little more aggressive with it. I'm going to pull it towards the center a little bit more.
That's so cool.
Right? Was I effective?
Yeah.
Give it kind of that thing.
Yeah.
So I think that is a great way to deal with it today. Again, there's many ways that you can shade floors. You could shade every second box like a checkerboard. You could shade around the diamond to make it almost look like a pin cushion. Okay, you know the old-fashioned pillows that had a button in the middle? It kind of looks like that. Sometimes I like to shade one side of every grid line, so I would choose the right side of the tall line, and it makes it look like steps. So that's really fun too. So again, many different ways that you can shade it. I think this is effective for our kind of curvy look that we got going today. And again, you can get pretty aggressive with that one. Bring it down even a little bit farther. What's fun when we use the toned papers for something like this is we can add the white pencil to the center, and that really gives it that curve.
Yeah.
Right? So you get the dark on the edges to get that roundness, and then the white brings it forward, so then it really gives that curve. Really, really cool. But we still get that same effect by leaving the center white on a white towel. Ta-da! Okay.
You got a lot of gray.
Oh, that looks good.
No, it looks really good though. I like it. It's aggressive, but it's really good. Yeah, you still left the center white, so it still gives that look to it, right? So then the last thing, after we've done all our shading, is to put them together in a mosaic and to appreciate them again. Because gratitude and appreciation, they're a big part of the Zentangle method.
I think that's so cute, adding appreciation as a part of the method.
And like I said, it's life-changing. Like once you start doing that and being kind to yourself and to what you can produce and what your hand does, you just become that person, I think, right? You just start to notice things in a different light too. And you just are more grateful and appreciative. That's one of the takeaways that I really got from the Zentangle method.
It's so cute.
Okay, so let's put them together, and I want you guys to manipulate them a little bit. So change how the patterns sit next to each other and take a peek at them, how they might match up. What's really fun sometimes is to see how the hollabah look like they're connecting. And look at
Yeah, that would look really good.
okay. Yeah, so you did something I often do is putting all the crescent moon together in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? I really like how that looks. But sometimes if you get
They look like a big rose.
okay. Look at this, because we all did them kind of in the same corner. Look at how you get that ninja star almost.
So
cool.
Right? But sometimes the roads match up. It's like we didn't try to do that,
intentionally,
right? Look
yeah.
at how they go. These ones almost all match up. It's like, look at those ones. We didn't do that on purpose. Oh my goodness, look at all three of those.
That's
How
so
they match up,
funny.
right? It's like, how did that happen?
That's so pretty.
And so that's the part I like to do, and especially with school kids, is for them to see how cool they look as a group, and that no one individual tile looks better than anyone else's, right? They're all gorgeous. We all did it differently. We all interpreted it differently. No two are the same. They're all unique and they're all gorgeous, just like Dana.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
I
And
love
just,
that. I want to
yeah.
take a photo.
Yes, and you have to take a photo, and if you don't mind, can I take one as well?
Yes,
Of course.
absolutely.
Because I do post these. This is as a class. I always post a mosaic on my pages. So I don't put names. No one's name is attached to it, but I always post the mosaic. And people always, the shadows are bad. People always hum and haw and rave about them. And they always look better
They
on
look
camera.
so good. Yeah.
Right?
They look
Even
really good.
because I think, again, you take away that paranoia when you look at it on camera as opposed to looking at it in real life.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, when you, like I said, look at it, take it away, even tuck it away somewhere, and bring it out tomorrow and look at it, and you go, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
But more importantly, because the process, right, is more important than the outcome, how do you feel?
I feel relaxed.
Hey?
I feel really relaxed.
Yeah.
I really enjoy art, especially because I find you can only focus on art when you're doing
Yeah.
it. And so having that relief of like not thinking about, oh, next we have to do this, or tomorrow I'm doing that, or what am I going to do here? Like just being able to hone in on all I'm doing is drawing a line.
And repeating it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're just making an aura and repeating it. You don't have to think about it. Right?
Yeah.
And that, for me too, I'm a list maker. And so when I lay awake at night or early in the morning, I'm making lists, I'm making appointments, I'm writing things down. When I tangle, I don't. And that's the first time in my life I've been able to shut my brain off, is by doing Zentangle and tangling. So, yeah. And at your age, it's a great tool.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's why my daughter's doing it. She's using it as a tool, right, for self-care and health and wellness. Right? And fun and cool art. But, right, it's the self-care part that's really an important
No,
part.
for sure. I'm the same way. I do my nails, and I feel like I kind of like can
Zone out too.
escape with it. And this is like the one other thing that I felt the same way where I wasn't thinking about anything else. So definitely will be using this for
I
sure.
hope so. I hope so. And please let me know. Like, I love my students. They send me tiles, right? They'll go, oh, Deb, I did this today. And they'll send me a tile. And I ask if they say, yes, I can share it. I'll post it. Again, I don't put names, but I'll post it and say, look what my student did today while they were studying for their exam, or they were waiting for a job interview, or they were in the plane, or whatever, right? And so I do that a lot too. I have an album on my Facebook page that is just my students' tiles. Yeah,
that's so nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. Show them off a little bit. But, so thanks for tangling with me.
Thank you so much for teaching us. This was amazing.
It was so fun. Thank you.
Good. It's a very inclusive art form, right? Like literally anyone can do it if you can hold a pen and you can make cool things. And one line at a time.
One line at a time.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
All right, just finished up with Deb's accidental art. Deb is so nice.
No, genuinely the sweetest. Like,
such a good teacher.
Such a kind soul.
Did you see that? I did it. I
Bridget
made something.
did it.
And I only
really
say that because you're so good at art. And I've realized that. Genuinely, the people will agree with me. The art that she has produced in the past 2 days, crazy. Literally so good.
Thanks.
So good.
So are you, though. You always put yourself down, but you're really good at art. We're just both two girls in BC, good at art, like thriving.
Genuinely.
Back to Deb. She was great. Honestly, I would genuinely take her class. For me personally, my brain never stops racing. And there's few things that will calm it down, and that was one of them, which was very surprising. But yeah, really good. What did she say? She said like a not mental health, like self-care. Yeah, self-care kind of thing. So
yeah, it's great for the art and also just for, as Rochelle said, calming the mind, because and the breathing, that was a really big thing for me when she would be like, make sure you're breathing, don't tense your shoulders.
I think
like,
she did it on purpose, because I swear to you, every time she did
I'm like, oh yeah, I'm clenching my jaw. But yeah, very relaxing, very fun. Check her out.
Yeah.